Welcome to Learn English with Sara. In today's video, we will explore a powerful real-life story that reveals the hidden truth behind the modern fashion industry. This is not just a story about clothing, it is about people, the environment, and the unseen price of cheap fashion. Through this story, you will also improve your English naturally by listening to meaningful content. Now, let us begin. With only 100,000 Vietnamese dong, what do you think you can buy? 1 shirt, 3 shirts, or even 10 items of clothing if you know how to hunt for sales and use discount codes. On online shopping platforms, the price of fashion items has dropped so low that many consumers feel like not buying would actually be a loss. But a very important question must be asked: why are clothes so cheap today? What hides behind those unbelievably low prices? The answers to these questions were revealed nearly 10 years ago in a documentary titled The True Cost, directed by Andrew Morgan. The film takes viewers into the dark side of the modern fashion industry, where the real cost of clothing is not the number printed on the price tag. From poor sewing workshops in Asia and cotton fields soaked in pesticides to toxic rivers and mountains of textile waste, each shocking scene exposes a painful truth. The world of fast fashion hides a devastating human and environmental cost. Fashion used to be something meaningful, a craft that expressed beauty, culture, and personal identity. For a long time, what we wore was a way to show our personality to the world. Designers created seasonal collections, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, bringing creativity and inspiration to the runway. But over time, everything changed dramatically. In the 1960s, 95% of the clothes worn by Americans were made domestically, but by the 2010s, only 3% of clothing in the United States was produced within the country. Most clothing today is manufactured in developing nations such as Bangladesh, India, Cambodia, and China. Outsourcing production to countries with cheap labor caused the price of clothing to drop more and more, and this opened the door to a new business model: fast fashion. Brands like H&M, Sara, Forever 21, and Uniqlo began to dominate the global market by selling clothes at extremely low prices. Instead of launching 2 collections a year, fast fashion brands release new products every single week. Their goal is simple: sell as many clothes as possible, as quickly as possible. Fashion is no longer just art, it has become a massive industrial system driven by profit. But when prices go down, something else must be sacrificed. Roger Lee, who runs a garment business in China that produces 1/6 of all shirts sold in America, explained that while the price of clothing keeps falling, the cost of production is actually rising. So who pays for this difference? The answer is clear: low-wage workers in developing countries. To produce clothes at extremely low prices, big fashion brands move their production to countries where labor is cheap and regulations are weak. There, minimum wage remains extremely low, and workers have little to no power. Brands place intense pressure on factory owners to keep prices low. If a factory says they cannot produce at such low prices, the brand simply moves production to another factory. There are countless options for them. However, factory owners do not have this freedom. They are forced to accept price cuts just to keep their businesses alive. To meet strict pricing demands, factories cut corners on safety and reduce labor costs, pushing workers into unsafe working conditions, and then dangerous accidents become inevitable. On April 24, 2013, the Rana Plaza building, an 8-story structure near Dhaka, Bangladesh, collapsed. Inside were thousands of garment workers. Before the tragedy, cracks had already appeared on the walls. Workers reported the danger to managers, but were forced to return to work anyway. The result was one of the deadliest industrial disasters in history. Over 1,000 people died, and around 2,500 were injured. This tragedy shocked the world. Yet 1 year later, the fashion industry continued to grow. Fast fashion remained one of the most profitable industries on earth. How is it possible that such a powerful industry cannot even provide safe working conditions or fair wages for its workers? Director Andrew Morgan revealed a harsh reality many consumers in developed countries simply do not care. In interviews with Americans, he asked what they thought about sweatshops, factories known for exploiting workers with low pay, long hours, and no safety protections. Many people responded that this was simply a choice made by workers. According to them, sewing clothes is not a dangerous job like mining or oil extraction. They believed workers in poor countries should be thankful for the jobs they have. But reality is very different. In Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, nearly 4 million garment workers are employed across almost 5,000 factories. About 85% of them are women. Their minimum wage is less than $3 per day, not even half of the minimum hourly wage in the United States. Bangladesh is one of the countries with the lowest labor costs in the world, which is why it has become a global center for fast fashion production. One of the workers featured in The True Cost is Shima, a young woman who started working in garment factories at the age of 12. Her first monthly salary was only $10. Despite working long hours under harsh conditions, she earned just enough to survive. But Shima was not passive. She wanted to improve working conditions. She helped form a labor union in her factory and presented a list of requests to management, asking for basic rights, fair wages, safe working conditions, and respect for workers. However, the response she received was brutal. A conflict broke out between factory managers and workers. Soon after, management locked the factory doors and brought in 30 to 40 men who violently attacked the female workers. They used chairs, sticks, metal scales, and even scissors to beat them. Shima and her co-workers were struck in the stomach and chest, their heads slammed against the wall. In the end, their demands were ignored, and the factory conditions remained unchanged. They were punished simply for asking to be treated like human beings. And garment factories are just one piece of the fast fashion supply chain. To understand the full system, Andrew Morgan went backward to the very beginning to the cotton fields where fabric production starts. On the other side of the world, in India, cotton farmers are suffering under a destructive agricultural system controlled by powerful chemical and seed corporations. Since the 1950s, after World War II, factories that once produced chemical weapons shifted to producing nitrogen-based fertilizers. Many of these factories were moved to developing countries, including India. But traditional Indian cotton seeds were not compatible with these new fertilizers, so a new system was introduced, led by large biotechnology companies. A genetically modified cotton seed called Bt cotton, produced by Monsanto, was marketed as a revolutionary solution. It was advertised as being resistant to pests because it could produce its own toxic protein to kill insects. Farmers were told they would no longer need pesticides, but in reality this promise was false. After a while, cotton pests developed resistance to the toxin. As a result, farmers had to buy even more pesticides to protect their crops. The situation grew worse. Bt cotton seeds were patented and sold at high prices, and farmers were legally forbidden from reusing seeds, forcing them to buy new ones every season. Trapped in this expensive system, many Indian farmers fell deep into debt. They borrowed money to buy seeds and chemicals. But when their crops failed due to unpredictable weather or pest resistance, they could not repay their loans. But debt was not the only problem. The heavy use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers began to poison communities. The state of Punjab, one of India's largest cotton producers, became one of the world's highest users of pesticides. The consequences were devastating cancer, birth defects, mental disabilities, and severe illnesses became common. In some villages, 70 to 80 children were born with deformities. Yet chemical corporations denied any responsibility, claiming their products were safe. Meanwhile, farmers could not afford medical treatment and were left to watch their children suffer. Environmental activist Vandana Shiva explained the cruel reality. The same companies that sell genetically modified seeds and chemical pesticides also sell medicines to treat the diseases caused by their chemicals. She said, "They win either way. Whether people get sick or not, they still profit. Only the farmers and the environment lose. Under unbearable debt and despair, many farmers saw no way out. Thousands of them took their own lives by drinking the very pesticides they used on their crops. In just 16 years, over 250,000 Indian farmers committed suicide, many of them cotton farmers who were part of the fast fashion supply chain. From the cotton fields of India to the crowded garment factories of Bangladesh, the entire fast fashion system is built on exploitation. The low prices paid by consumers are only possible because the real cost is pushed onto others: workers, farmers, and the environment. These are the people who truly pay the hidden price of fast fashion. Meanwhile, consumers in wealthy countries rarely see this suffering. They only see full shopping malls, trendy clothing, and cheap prices. But every piece of clothing has a story behind it, a story often written in pain, pollution, and human sacrifice. Yet the demand for fast fashion continues to grow because consumer behavior is being carefully manipulated. Fast fashion companies constantly create new trends, encouraging people to buy more and throw away clothes faster. And this is only the beginning of the hidden cycle behind fast fashion. The cycle of consumption is not accidental, it is intentionally designed. People are led to believe that they always need more, that buying new things brings happiness, confidence, and success. In the documentary The True Cost, economists and psychologists explained how advertising plays a central role in shaping this endless desire to consume. From cars to shampoos, from handbags to perfumes, advertisements deliver one consistent message: buying this product will make your life better. A luxury car symbolizes achievement. A bottle of shampoo promises beauty and admiration. A new outfit gives the illusion of transformation. These messages repeat day after day until they become part of our subconscious. With the rise of social media, this culture of consumption has become even more powerful. Influencers and celebrities showcase new clothes every week. Videos titled Shopping Haul or Unboxing present buying as a form of entertainment. Viewers, especially young people, are drawn into this world of instant gratification. They start to believe that happiness can be bought, that a new shirt or pair of shoes will make them feel complete. As a result, the way people spend money has changed dramatically. Decades ago, buying new clothes was a special event, something done once or twice a year. Today, it happens every few weeks, sometimes even every few days. People buy cheap clothes for every occasion: a holiday, a party, or simply to post a new photo online. Over time, the middle range of spending disappears. People only spend on two extremes: either very expensive things like houses, cars, education, or very cheap items like fast food, cosmetics, or low-cost fashion. The expensive items require years of saving, but the cheap ones are easy to buy immediately. This leads to a psychological trap: people buy many small things to feel better temporarily, without realizing how much they spend overall. The American advertising pioneer Ernest Elmo Calkins once said that consumerism makes people treat durable goods as if they were disposable. His words have become a perfect description of the fast fashion era. According to The True Cost, people now buy 80 billion new pieces of clothing each year, which is 4 times more than what they bought just 2 decades ago. Most consumers believe they are getting a great deal when they find a cheap item. But in truth, they are being manipulated. Their needs are no longer natural, they are created by corporations for profit. The fast fashion system depends on this illusion. The more we buy, the more we throw away, and the faster new clothes are produced to replace the old ones. This endless production does not only harm people, it is also destroying the planet. The environmental cost of fast fashion is staggering. Each stage of production, from cotton farming to dyeing, consumes enormous amounts of water, energy, and chemicals. And because of the low quality of materials, these clothes are not made to last. In the United States alone, 11 million tons of textile waste are thrown away each year. Most of it is not biodegradable and will remain in landfills for hundreds of years, releasing toxic gases into the air and soil. Many people believe that donating old clothes is a solution, but only about 10% of donated clothes are ever sold in thrift stores. The rest are sent to developing countries as second-hand imports. When Andrew Morgan followed these clothing shipments to Haiti, he discovered an unexpected consequence. Locals call these second-hand clothes pipe, meaning used clothing from the West. At first, it seemed like a good thing, cheap clothes for poor people. But soon, Pepe became a disaster for the local economy. The massive flood of used clothing destroyed Haiti's domestic textile industry. Local workers lost their jobs, and the country became completely dependent on imported waste from other nations. In another part of the world, along the Ganges River in India, tanneries that process leather for luxury fashion brands release over 50 million liters of toxic wastewater every day. These chemicals used to soften and color leather flow directly into the river that supports over 800 million people. The result is catastrophic. Villagers living nearby suffer from skin diseases, liver failure, digestive problems, and cancers. The contrast is heartbreaking. While luxury brands profit from selling high-end leather goods, the people who live beside the Ganges receive only pollution and sickness. Yet the environmental cost of production is never included in the price tag of a handbag or a pair of shoes. In the modern economy, nature and human labor are treated as invisible. The damage to the environment, the suffering of workers, the lives lost in factory disasters all are ignored. The only number that matters is profit. And as long as profit continues to rise, the system will not change. Beyond the physical destruction of the environment, the social impact of fast fashion is equally alarming. In Bangladesh alone, millions of women like Shima spend their lives working in garment factories. They leave their rural homes to find jobs in the city, hoping to escape poverty and provide a better future for their children. But the reality is harsh. Long working hours, unsafe buildings, and extremely low wages keep them trapped in a cycle of exploitation. Because factories do not offer childcare or family support, many mothers are forced to send their children back to their villages to be raised by relatives. These women sacrifice family, health, and safety just to survive. They work day after day behind sewing machines, stitching clothes that will be sold for prices far higher than their daily wages. Shima, the young woman introduced earlier, once said, "I believe these clothes are made with our blood." Her words reflect a painful truth. Every cheap shirt or dress has a human cost. While shoppers throw away clothing without a thought, workers risk their lives for every piece they produce. All they want is to be treated fairly and to work in a safe environment, but even these basic rights are denied. When workers demand improvement, they are often silenced. Protests are met with violence. In Phnom Penh, Cambodia, thousands of garment workers once went on strike, demanding that the government increase the minimum wage to $160 per month. This small raise was essential for survival, but the peaceful protest escalated into chaos when police opened fire on the workers. 5 workers were killed, over 40 were injured, and 23 were arrested. The message was clear: resistance would not be tolerated. Why did the government respond with such brutality? The answer lies in global economics. To attract foreign investment from fashion brands, developing countries keep their labor costs extremely low. If they raise wages or improve workers' rights, brands may relocate production to another country. Afraid of losing investment and jobs, governments side with corporations, not with their own people. This system protects brands from responsibility. Big fashion companies claim they do not own the factories. They only place orders. So when labor violations occur, when workers are beaten, buildings collapse, or children are found working in factories, the brands can simply say, "It's not our factory. We are not responsible." This loophole allows them to make billions in profit while escaping accountability. The result is a global chain of injustice. At one end are the rich brands and wealthy consumers. At the other end are the workers and farmers who suffer in silence. Cheap fashion is not cheap, it is paid for by someone else. And then comes the final cost, the cost to the planet. Fast fashion is one of the largest polluting industries in the world. Toxic chemicals from dyeing factories seep into rivers. Synthetic fibers like polyester break into microplastics that end up in our oceans, harming fish and entering the human food chain. Landfills overflow with discarded clothing that never decomposes. Nature is being destroyed. Meanwhile, production continues at full speed. The fashion industry produces more clothing than the world can use. Mountains of unsold garments are burned or dumped in deserts, like the Atacama Desert in Chile, now known for piles of clothing waste visible from space. And yet, this system still continues. Why? Because it is profitable. Because we keep buying. Because we do not see the damage with our own eyes. But is there a way out? Is there hope for a better system? Director Andrew Morgan asked this question in The True Cost. The answer, according to economist Richard Wolff, lies not only in fashion but in the structure of our entire economic system. He explains that in many countries, especially in the United States, people can criticize education, healthcare, transportation, but criticizing the economic system itself is seen as taboo. When a system remains unquestioned for too long, it becomes corrupt. It starts to serve only those at the top. However, change is still possible. Around the world, people are fighting for ethical and sustainable fashion. The documentary introduces brands like People Tree, which works directly with artisans and ensures safe working conditions. Farmers like Linda Gross and Laria Pepper in Texas are growing organic cotton without chemicals, proving that agriculture can be safe for both people and the planet. These stories show that another way is possible. Change does not come from the top. It starts with individual choices. Every purchase we make is a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. If we choose sustainability, fairness, and responsibility, the industry will be forced to change. But if we continue to support fast fashion blindly, the cycle of exploitation will never end. The story of fast fashion is not just about clothing. It is about human dignity, environmental survival, and moral responsibility. We must decide what kind of future we want to build. The truth behind fast fashion is not only an issue of economics or industry, it is a moral issue. The hidden cost of cheap clothing is paid by workers who live in fear, by children who grow up without parents, by farmers who lose their land, and by communities poisoned by pollution. Yet those who benefit the most, the major fashion corporations and wealthy consumers, are rarely held responsible. This imbalance exists because of how the global fashion system is structured. Big fashion brands operate through complex supply chains that stretch across many countries. They outsource production to factory owners who must compete with each other to offer the lowest prices. This pressure is then pushed onto workers at the bottom of the system, who end up earning wages too low to survive. If these workers protest or demand better treatment, factories threaten to fire them, knowing there are millions of others desperate to take their place. In many countries, labor rights are weak or poorly enforced. Governments often side with corporations because they fear losing foreign investment. As a result, exploitation becomes normalized, and human lives become part of the cost of doing business. But the workers are not the only victims. The environment pays a severe price as well. The fashion industry uses 93 billion cubic meters of water each year, enough to meet the needs of 5 million people. Toxic wastewater from textile factories is often dumped into rivers without treatment, poisoning communities downstream. Polyester and nylon, two common materials used in fast fashion, are made from fossil fuels and release microplastics into oceans during every wash cycle. The impact reaches even further. Producing a single cotton t-shirt requires about 2,700 liters of water, the amount an average person drinks in 2.5 years. Growing cotton also requires large amounts of pesticides, which harm soil, water, and wildlife. Leather production is even worse. To prevent animal hides from rotting, factories use chromium and other heavy metals, which can cause cancer and organ failure in people exposed to them. Despite these devastating consequences, the true environmental cost is never included in the price of clothing, A $5 shirt does not account for the poisoned rivers, dead fish, toxic air, or the illness of factory workers. The costs are simply passed on to those who cannot fight back. A system built on denial. When confronted with criticism, fashion brands often respond with public relations campaigns. They claim to support sustainability, celebrate eco-friendly collections, and promise better working conditions. But most of these efforts are greenwashing marketing strategies designed to make harmful companies look responsible without changing their business model. For example, a brand may launch a small conscious collection using a tiny percentage of recycled materials while continuing to produce thousands of tons of cheap clothing every year. Or it may donate money to charity while refusing to pay fair wages to its own supply chain workers. These gestures are not real solutions, they are distractions. The problem lies not in one factory, one country, or one company. The problem lies in the entire fast fashion model, a model built on mass production, overconsumption, and disposability. As long as fashion companies make money by selling more clothes faster and cheaper, the suffering will continue. Is there hope for change? The answer is yes, but only if we act. The documentary The True Cost teaches us that every person is part of the fashion system, whether we realize it or not. We cannot ignore the consequences of our choices. When we buy clothing, we support the values of the brand behind it. Our money has power. Change begins with awareness. When people understand the true cost of fast fashion, they begin to question their habits. Do we really need new clothes every month? Why do we treat clothing as disposable when people risk their lives making it instead of buying more? Could we buy less but choose quality over quantity? Many people around the world are already taking action. Consumers are choosing ethical and sustainable fashion brands. Designers are creating clothes meant to last, not be thrown away. Activists are fighting for fair wages and safe factories. Entrepreneurs are building second-hand platforms and repair services. Communities are organizing clothing swaps instead of shopping sprees. Even small changes can create a ripple effect. Buying fewer items, choosing natural fibers, supporting worker rights campaigns, repairing instead of throwing away. Each decision shapes the future of fashion. As Andrew Morgan concluded in his film, fashion should not cost lives. Clothing should be a celebration of creativity, culture, and humanity, not a symbol of greed and destruction. The real question is not, what can one person do, but what happens if no one does anything? The choice is ours. Thank you for watching and learning with Learn English with Sara. If this story inspired you or helped you understand the world better through English, please support this channel by liking the video, sharing it with others, subscribing for more meaningful stories, and commenting your thoughts below. Your support helps us bring more powerful English learning content every week.